Peace and love, everybody. This is the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance Show, and welcome and thank you for listening. Every show we start by giving praise and honor to the ancestors, for it is their shoulders upon whom I stand. Welcome to the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance Show. Glorious day, Samut with Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance podcast. Welcome to the show today. Let me give my greetings and praise, as I always do, to the ancestors upon whose shoulders which I stand. You know, there's no information that's new under the sun. We are simply reclaiming, refashioning, and then making it palatable for this day and time. So I salute those grand, beneficent ancestors upon whose shoulders I stand. Welcome to the show today. And we have a guest in the building. I'm so happy. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Miss Nwasha Edu of the Akoma House Initiative, one of the dynamic duo, she and Montsho Edu with his fabulous self too. But she is going to sit here and chat with us today about all things love.
Yes, that's my
welcome,
favorite topic.
Nwasha. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, dear.
A pleasure to chat with you anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I can't be remiss. I got to give a shout out to my wonderful, fabulous partner in wealth. I ain't going to say partner in crime because we'll leave that to Washington. Round here, we have partner in wealth and prosperity, the wonderful engineer and producer of the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance show, Flaw 700. What's up, Flaw?
Hello.
Hello.
I sound better this week.
Yeah, you did. Hey, let me ask you, Flaw, did you get any responses, any ticks on that beard?
I did get a few responses, but my memory's bad. I've seen it. I just didn't write them down because they be all over the place. You have some on Twitter. You have some on Facebook. So they like be scattered all over the place. So yeah, there were some people who was just like, you know what, this is my type of vibe right here.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was not asking about responses to the podcast. I was asking about people sliding in your DMs about the beard.
No.
He said he didn't tally those up. You missed that part. He said Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's a process to add those up.
Right, I see. As long as you ain't getting no DMs from Snapchat, because that crowd will get you locked up, baby.
I don't have Snapchat.
All right. Well, this show today, the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance show today is about love. And we're talking about not necessarily, altruistic love or friendship. We're talking about mating, and the science of soul mating, as the Edus have coined that term, the science of soul mating. So, Nwasha, we're just going to have a chat. And before we go into that, I know of your great accomplishments, and you're a mother and an educator, a full-time professor at university. And you and your husband, you've written a couple of books, and you are a best-selling author. And you bring, girl,
we know
I know
each
your
other.
stuff. I know your stuff now. You got to keep your mentors in view, your peer mentors in view. And besides all of that, I'm just proud of you and happy to have you, as a part of my sisterhood.
Thank you.
Why don't you share some factoids about yourself that maybe I kind of left out for our listening and viewing audience?
Well, you've said so much. I, have loved to travel in my life. That's really a big part of who I am. So internationally, I was able to travel when I was really young, in high school. And that really set off a different experience for me in understanding how people form relationships, because I was kind of thrust into not speaking a language and not knowing anyone. I traveled to Brazil when I was a junior in high school. But it also showed me that there's so much in common that's unspoken, that everything is really energy. And there's a way to learn And there's a way to communicate without necessarily having the common language
That's right.
superficial. So that is such a big part of who I am in my appreciation and love of people, and how I think that people are just so interesting and unique and dynamic, but also it gave me an appreciation for my own culture.
Yes.
Which when I was able to come back and, be in a relationship with Montsho and grow as a person and understanding who I am on the planet and how I can engage with others, I think that I was really able to fuse a lot of passions into one and helping other people perfect the most important relationships in their life. So definitely the passionate relationship.
Absolutely. The passionate. I like that. The passionate relationship. Everybody. So let's jump right in, right? Okay. So on social media, I notice a lot of discussion around various topics when it comes to the passionate relationship. I myself am a woman, well over 50, whoop, whoop, and, celebrating getting older and older, not celebrating getting old.
Right.
I'm not interested in being rickety and old and all of that. And excuse me, y'all, dried up. But I am interested in if it is my in my life destiny plan, longevity, so that's why, I'm quite a bit of enthusiast in terms of health and vitality and eating what you should eat and keeping your mind, body, energy in balance. But when it comes to the mate relationship, when it comes to companionship, I noticed that women, of all ages, but particularly 35 and older set, there's seems to be a larger gap in terms of connecting with someone who you could have a balanced companionship with.
Yeah, I can see that. I've had a lot of people who are over the age of 50. A lot of women talk about what their choices can be for the men in their lives when they've hit a certain space, especially if they have been really interested in being well and healthy and fit and they want to be vibrant.
Sure.
A lot of times they're looking and they're saying, I don't know that the man who is maybe 60 or 70 has been keeping up with himself in that same way. I had one person tell me, I'm not trying to be nobody's nurse.
That's
I'm
right.
not trying to dish out pills and,
That's
do that type of thing. So she actually was interested in younger men. For that reason, because she said, I'm looking for someone who wants to travel, who wants to move around, who wants to dance. And I'm not looking for, just to be someone's servant because they're not well. So I think health at a certain age is just a point on the table.
It really is. To pull from a famous family in the news now, Ivana Trump, Donald Trump's first wife. There's a great documentary about her and her life. She's a self-made woman in her own right. And honestly, to play at that level in terms of marrying a billionaire, there's a certain kind of woman that's going to be in that space, right? So she's a self-made woman in her own right. And in the documentary, she has Ivana is 75 or something now, and she has her man is 40, right? And they asked her, why do you have, what you doing with this 40-year-old man? She said, honey, I ain't going to try to do her voice. But what she said was, I would rather be a babysitter than a nurse any day. She said, old men can't do nothing for me because, their back needs to work. This is what she said on the interview.
Well, I think that there's so much that's involved. Really. Right. I mean, the physical aspect, especially in a passionate relationship, is very important. But, what is often not there, and I think a lot of men know this when they try to deal with a younger woman. When you remove the physical aspect, there is a difference in emotional, mental, and spiritual maturity. So it's just a matter of what decision you're making at any given time.
That's right.
Are you going for a physical vitality that is really just, you have this because you are in youth? Or are you, wanting to match at a mental and physical, or a mental, spiritual, and emotional level? Yeah. So like a lot of times when I see men who go for a younger woman, and I'm saying like significantly younger, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like how is this person feeding you on all of the other levels?
That's right.
Or you're just like, wow, everything is right and tight and this is what I want to look at and be on.
It's all carnal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where we are in a lot of our relationships, unfortunately.
Sure.
And especially after you've been married. Like, so if you're talking about somebody who has been married to somebody who was her age and
that's right.
You're making a decision now and saying, what do I want to do right now?
Right.
And if it is like this like surge of passion and excitement and something adventurous and vital, then you're like you said, I'd rather be a babysitter than a nurse. Like that's a decision that you're making. But there's so much more to a relationship than just the physical.
There is.
So there is a compromise in that.
That's right. Because even if you're going into a relationship for the eros, right, for the passion of the relationship, other dynamics come into play, as you said. There's so much more involved than just the physical aspect. But what I've been noticing as I've looked through on social media, my IG and Facebook, is, women saying that they want companionship. And my philosophy has been there are three main reasons to have a mate in your life. Three main. Now, there are, of course, sub-reasons, but the three main are companionship, financial connection and support and collaboration, and, passion. We got the third one.
Yes.
Kind of that should have been what I said first. The sexual, companionship and passion with someone. Now you're the expert. You and Montsho are both professional licensed counselors.
Right.
And so this is the work that you do in terms of helping people navigate their relationships. You have all kinds of programs and counseling sessions that you do with people. So what about those three main?
I think that what we say, of course, is that your intimate relationship is the complementary energy. So the art and science of soulmating is really you're meeting your soulmate and that person is completing an idea or a purpose on the planet. So I think that those three things are pretty vital. But the number one thing that I always say a relationship is doing is perfecting your character.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to show up in those major ways because that's how we interact. But we typically talk about, we use things like what Frances Cress Welsing said or, Neely Fuller, the 11 areas of people activity. You're going to link up with someone and that's economics, as you mentioned, education, entertainment, food, fashion, labor, law, religion, sex, war. All of that is how we're interacting with each other. You have a purpose on the planet that there is a complementary version of that purpose. So a lot of times we're not taught that when we're younger, when we're approaching puberty. We don't even know what it is sometimes ourselves, even when we are in our 40s
right.
or 50s. We can say, hey, I'm just coming into it now.
Right.
And I think that that's something that we don't pay attention to is who am I? And then what is the complement to that?
That's right.
So a lot of times we're just out there either focusing just on the mental, just on the spiritual, just on the financial, just on the whatever we're focusing on, it's kind of not in a holistic understanding. So that's the reason why on top of all of the schooling that we have done and all of the technique that we've gotten, there's nothing like a cultural understanding, which is really purpose.
Yeah.
So I think that those three things are, that's what I think of in a practical sense is who is my companion that I'm sharing a journey with, that I'm walking with. Yes. And then, of course, can we eat? Can we thrive in the material world? Like, is it easy for us? And then the passion is what makes an intimate relationship more than a friendship. Yeah. more than just being your roommate that you're splitting the bills with and having pleasant conversation.
And going to the movies with every now and again.
Right. Exactly. That's the upgrade to the companionship. But I think that in all of that, because you can do some of those things and still not be fulfilling purpose. Definitely. What I mean? Like that's a woman's story for many decades is, can I have a house? Yes. So I got to deal with whatever I have to deal with because the man makes more than me. Sure. Or at different times when women weren't even working, right? We went, as they say, speaking of social media, struggle love.
Struggle love. What's that? Oh,
That
you and your man
is-
together struggling, and it's like forever.
You just gotta,
and all
you
eternal.
got, the struggle walk for 5 years, 10 years. Because I've seen people on social media say, "Hey, I think it's cool that my grandparent has been married for 50 years,
Right.
but all of those 50 years weren't all that."
Yeah.
So sometimes when people are saying hashtag goals,
Yeah. Relationship
and hashtag,
goals.
really,
Sure.
you're saying this person suffered in a way until this man was just now ready to settle.
Yeah.
And if both people aren't really thinking about who am I and what's the best compliment, and I'm not just getting married off, or I'm not just looking for financial stability, but I'm kind of upset or bitter about that. Like the idea is, in a perfect sense, that we would be looking at our children and our grandchildren and our nieces and nephews and saying, this is what I think that you are. And this over here is the complement to that, so that both of you can perfect yourselves while you're on a physical plane. But we're not always doing that. And
well, for the most part, and the majority of, our listening and viewing audience, people really have no concept of understanding that process to mating. Although that is the highest and most fulfilling, way in which to encounter and connect with your mate. If you have that type of focus that, listen, I'm on a journey and I'm going to attract my complement. Now, the law of attraction says you're going to attract where you are at whatever stage in life. So if you meet somebody who's dastardly, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're dastardly. Lord have mercy. God, shudder the thought.
If you meet someone who's dry,
oh my Lord,
it means you're dry.
You gotta bring out the succulents, honey. Well, it's a complementary and a reflective relationship, right? In all spiritual cultures, that is in all indigenous cultures, really, it is that's the reality. But in this Western, nearly lawless society that most of us live in, it's about the externals first, and we're not sure why this person is in our life other than they externally get to tick off the boxes. So, organizations like yours with you and your husband can go a long way in teaching young ladies, middle-aged ladies, and older ladies, or even men as well, this science, so that they can have a different perspective about attracting. One thing I wanted to share in terms of what you said about the struggle love, all dynamics in life, there's a struggle. Flo and I were talking about before we went on air that we are all romanticized by other people's success, but we don't know all of the sweat, blood, and tears, the turmoil, the many times you was packing up your SH honey, or your sugar honey iced tea and leaving, not just in mate relationships or passionate relationships, but in your business and, getting that degree and dealing with your children. All of it is, designed to pull the best out in you. And that requires, the type of pressure that creates diamonds out of coal. And so we were talking about how, especially in this era of social media, all you see is the fabulousness and the fabulosity. But all the struggle behind it is not what we see, but it's real. It's very real.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that if you are mature, right? I remember when social media started. So I can put that into what I see, right? So even though we're saying, hey, this is about love and likes, every social media platform, up until recently, you couldn't even give anything more than love.
Right.
It was only recently that Facebook added other emotions.
That's right.
So everything was about love and liking and hearts and all that type of stuff. You're not going to put up that your dog died.
Right.
Until the reason why they came up with those other emotions was because people are like, I feel awkward liking this when people are sharing real parts of themselves.
Stuff. Yeah,
so I think the more mature you are, you're like, okay, if I find myself being jealous or envious or wanting something that I see, I know I have to take all of that person's story. And I'm not willing to trade because I don't know what the rest is that's behind this one photo that I see. But I do think younger people don't know that necessarily. So I know I just was reading a study like maybe 2 weeks ago that said younger people who grew up with social media are more depressed.
Yes.
Than people who maybe grew up in the 60s and 70s. People who grew up in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
And grew up, you're saying my life doesn't compare to this person.
That's right.
And you're also more isolated.
That's
so
right.
like this whole, and I can't remember who did the article, but it was basically saying a survey was done. How many hours do you really spend with your friends in person?
That's right.
How many hours do you go outside? How many hours do you, entertain yourself rather than I'm just scrolling, looking at all the stuff that I don't have and all the places that I haven't been.
Getting all those dopamine hits and that spirit register is what's happening.
And it's all energy, like you said. Everything. If we're really, because I love social media on one hand. I think if you're following the right people.
Well, you're a technological ninja, Nwasha.
I love it. I'm like, this person, but I also say to myself, if ever I feel like, man, this person is in Bali doing yoga and I'm here instructing.
Right.
What I have to say is whatever they have aligned themselves with, I can align myself with. So I use those kind of things as reminders.
Right.
If I see somebody, and, I've been with Montsho for like 20 years. So what I might have said in year one, if I saw somebody else and they're like together in Bali doing yoga.
Yes.
I might have said something different year one. But now year 20, I'm like, okay, anybody who's been together, you have been perfecting your character. And anything that's calling for perfection is some whittling away. That's right. Some challenges, some letting go, some building up strengths, all of those types of things. So I say, what can I do?
That's right.
But you have to have that understanding again. And that's another thing. I think it's turning around.
Yeah.
Because I do see a part of a mainstream conversation talking about energy and talking about, because, we've
been talking about that
holistic understandings, but I
right.
do see like a popular version of it. And I think that's good. It's a sign of the times changing.
It's a necessity. Everything serves to further. So someone may not come to a hardcore, unsanitized, mystic-laden Kundalini yoga class, but they'll do a hot vinyasa and spirit will use that to inform their life, and to the point of the youth being more, isolated. It is a huge problem. Like there's much more suicide and suicidal tendencies on college campuses. I was reading similar studies because, I'm in that space as well in terms of the mindfulness. And what is happening is, people are isolated, and for human beings, that's a death knell because we are gregarious and we're communal and we're meant to be a part of tangible, visceral tribes. And social media, one of the negatives, or the, what do they call those when you take medicines, side effects, negative contraindications and side effects is the isolation. And when people are scrolling and those images are going past their retinas, it is inciting dopamine and the whole chemical chain reaction that's taking place in them is seeding their spirit, towards, the depression and sadness. It's no different than having some other type of addiction to some other type of chemical.
It's true. The only thing is that it's literally 24/7. So like the one thing about maybe some of the other addictions is you were going to run out.
That's right. And you have to go.
You have to go re-up. But now you're like, I know, some of my students are young and they just don't turn it off. So like we know, that's not good for your circadian rhythm.
Nope.
That's not good for anything, but you're sleeping on top of the social media. So it's the last thing you see and the first thing you see. That's a lot.
That's right.
And you're also not around people.
Like
so if you were using it like, hey, this is my pen pal, but one day we're going to meet.
That's right.
It would be different.
And you don't even want to meet the people that's on social media because you're going to be disappointed that they really do have blemishes and their butt is not as big as it appears.
With a permanent filter.
And they really don't have that bunny nose and those rabbit ears,
But and that's why it's important for you to, the same way that you, maybe clean up your relationship or clean up your diet and do those detoxes, you have to really say, let me detox my timeline.
That's right.
If I feel some type of way when I see this person talking about the relationship, I should unfollow.
That's right.
Or mute. I see they got all these fancy things now. You can put somebody on pause for 30 days. You can mute them because you have to say, like, if it doesn't do anything to you, if it's inspiring to you, then you should keep it.
Yeah.
Because that's a matter of you saying, I'm perfecting myself because I have a goal. But if it's like making you want to throw your phone or find the person and slash their tires and just cause some mischief, if you're being negative, then you need to say, okay, this is not, life forward. This is somehow harming me.
This is what they call the devil. Let me tell y'all, listen, I found myself one time on my social media and somebody had posted I just hit the mic, y'all. Sorry. This is reality podcasting here. So, somebody had posted like a series. They put like a lot of, their posts on my timelines and it was just one after the other. So I'm scrolling and I'm saying to myself out loud, lies, 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 lies. And then I said, wait a minute, Samu, this is not very queenly or, high spirited. So I found, let's snooze them for 30 days. And then we'll just go on back to, oh, look at the pretty kittens. Right. You've been on this thing an hour, put it down, girl, go do some yoga.
And even that, there's so many things that you can do. Right. Like I see, people put themselves on a timeout with their phone. Yeah. So you can say from this hour to this hour. That's right. When I even try to go hit it, it doesn't work. And that's my reminder that, I'm supposed to be, doing yoga. I'm supposed to be having breakfast. I'm supposed to be
writing an hour on that book or something.
But you can actually set the time. Like it helps you get some self-control because you are by yourself.
You have to have the presence of mind to do that though, and realize that there's you as a freed up being and the matrix. Like you have to have that presence of mind to be able to do it. But listen, we have gone down the rabbit hole and not taking the proper pink pill that we're supposed to be taking, which is that of love. Yes. Right? I guess we're talking about love and passion of self, for self, and some of the things that impede that, which are the social media and why people can't really get together because there are these perceptions brought forth by social media. But I want to also ask about, are you all familiar with dating sites? Have y'all done work with people who have gone on a dating site?
Worked with people.
Well, I'm going to tell you my funny story once you get done.
I've been with Montsho for 20 years. It wasn't so popular 20 years ago.
Well, I'm not talking about you personally.
So
I'm talking about some of your clients.
I have no personal experience with it, but I do know people who have, married through it and given really great recommendations. I also know people who, is similar to social media. I know people who have just met on social media, and that's what we were before we went down the rabbit hole. If you can say these are the groups that I like, or this is what I'm really about, and be honest, you can actually find someone who's on a similar path. Sure. Which can narrow down your search from just like I went out
just
and
random
to the club. Here's 50 people, but I don't really know anything that they're about. Right. Some of following people on social media can let you know what people are about.
Right. Absolutely.
But I've had people who also have bad experience. So like again, just wanting to be in the physical, and sometimes when you're picking somebody, you got to have a somewhat of an attraction. Sure. But some of those dating sites can be, that's what you're making your first choice of, especially if you're like swipe to the left, swipe to the right. Like,
oh my goodness.
Oh no, you're not attractive. You are. You're not. You are. You are. Then that's who you're picking something from. It's that same conversation of where are we going to meet first? Right. Are we meeting physically, mentally, or how can we like blend the two or three and harmonize all four? That's right. Our emotional self, our mental self. How can we do that? And you can combine. You can say, hey, this is who I'm attracted to physically, but now I'm going to show up with the right 7 questions, or I'm going to make sure our first interactions are at the right 7 places. Yeah. So other people can observe them too and let me in on,
and take your time, I think, and everybody's in a god awful rush, it's like the clock is ticking and we got to rush to, all of these entanglements and engagements, but I think, there was a social, a dating, there is a dating organization that's calendar based, right? And what they do, they schedule all of these events and you take a membership and you go to all of these events. So if you like to play tennis, everybody at the event has been vetted, supposedly. Smart. And is single and plays tennis. Or if you like wine and there's wine tasting, they schedule balloon drops and all this thing, right? So they schedule all these events. There's a rigorous, I looked into this, y'all. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Ancestors be with me. They're like, well, not over there.
Got the facts.
I just wanted to get the facts for the podcast. So anyway, they do all this vetting, of who you are. And the kicker, though, the main stopgap is something like $700 a month to be a part of that organization. It's like, if you don't have the money to do that, to date that way, that already is an elimination process,
That's
so
true.
I thought
that's
that was very interesting. Yeah. So that's the deepest cut right there,
You could be like, hey, I'm going to get 4 months up and see what I can do in 4 months.
In 4 months and
5 months.
Yeah. But you never know who you could meet. So on a similar vein, I guess people, if they wanted to connect with, someone, or just go and enjoy your life, have interests. If you want to, if you like museums, if you you could do these meetups, but you have to be careful about those kinds of things too, because you don't want to meet up and then have to jack nobody up.
That's true, especially as women.
Yeah.
We have to be more careful.
Yeah.
Like when you look in the news, I just saw, several news stories that I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? Like you're at the mercy, when you're a woman, especially moving around by yourself. So I think that the more vetting you can do, the better. But like you said, you just have to live your life. So you have to live your life with caution and care about your life. But that's what one of the main challenges is. We use the heart or the Akoma as a logo, saying that you're going to kind of, if you have the heart, you're meeting and then reconnecting. But part of the reconnecting is you moving yourself on that side of the Akoma. So if you're not moving, if you're not going to the museums, if you're not traveling, you're not going to meet the person who's already there.
Yeah.
Waiting to meet you. And I think we have such a, we're picking people, especially women, based on validation sometimes.
Yeah.
Even when we're saying this is what I want for myself, you could say, hey, I'm an older woman. I'm looking for older men who are vibrant.
Right.
So what would a person be doing if they're vibrant? Maybe they would be at the gym.
Yep.
Maybe they would be running a marathon. Maybe they would be, whatever it is that I am being called to do, I'm going to meet a compliment over there. That's the art and the science, because there's a science to soul mating.
Now
there's an art.
Wait, I got to get a paper and pad for the math now for the science part. I got to do the math. You want me to show the work, right?
I need
wait a minute, 2 + 1 =
showing
3,
of the work.
So, we can't forget Nwasha is a professor, so she's going to have us showing the work.
How you came to this answer specifically.
Girl, you know the answer, right?
But that's what sometimes we're only doing the art, which is all the I need it to be magnetic chemistry right away.
I need to
that's
feel
real.
It. Yeah, it's
chemistry
real.
is real.
Sure.
And then we're like only doing the science. Like I wrote down my 10 points on my list, and if you don't got it, I'm not even looking up for my list. So sometimes, we have to realize that life is both of those things. You have the time to be free and enjoy all the 7 senses.
That's right.
Which, we talk a lot about the 5 senses, but from an indigenous perspective, thought is the first sense. So magnetizing your mate based on thoughts of yourself and thoughts for them, but then also your emotion is the second sense. And then those two things really set a tone for how you experience the seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching. And if you're not doing the art with the senses and understanding that there is order with the science, then, you can waste a year doing the art.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you can waste a year doing just the science of, hey, we got this. That's what people say. It looks good on paper.
Yeah.
His relationship looks great on paper.
Yeah.
He's got this, I've got this, but we don't have the chemistry. Or we all we have is chemistry, but we can't stand each other.
And we can't get nothing done.
And we can't get anything done.
That's right. So, well, both of us being spiritual scientists, and traveling, and having studied in our various lanes that, have taught us, very similar lanes, but have taught us the science of metaphysics and how to use that. Visualizing from some certain spiritual traditions, you could create a pattern of using your visualization and your imagination capacity, talking about the senses, using your sense of smell and your sense to your capacity to visualize what it is you want your life to be. Because from a spiritual perspective, your visualization capacity is your blank board. that you actually manifest from.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all kinds of indigenous and metaphysical techniques that someone could use if they had that proper training. Because just like, but the law is manifest no matter what, because you can visualize yourself being lonely and single and reinforce, like you said, those thoughts and the feelings behind, the emotions behind those thoughts. And that is what spirit and universal energy will bring to you more of. I mean, it's real, and
you just analyze, what have you been thinking about relationships this past year?
Like,
what has your relationship
50
been?
years. Whatever. Oh Lord, there go that again.
You know what I think though? I think just saying that though is so important, because with everything, the first thing is awareness.
Yep.
So you can be like, you know what? I didn't even think about what I was thinking about. Especially when no one has taught you that that's the first sense.
That's right.
So if you're like, what do I really think about? I always tell people, like, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Men are, women are. When it comes to love, I am. When you start all those automatic scripts that you have, and if you don't objectively look at the script, if you're saying, I am never going to find anybody.
Yes.
If that's your fill in the blank, I am too old, too young, too inexperienced, too poor,
too fat,
too
unattractive.
If you say men are liars, they're dogs, they're cheaters. If that's your script, don't sign up for any dating.
Don't do any dating sites. That's some inner work that needs to be done.
Magnetize a person to prove what you already believe. And we know that with other little things.
That's right.
We know we have to think positive, or we know if you're looking for employment or you're looking for whatever you're looking for, you have to maintain a certain mentality.
That's right.
But when it comes to relationships, it's a sensitive spot in the heart.
Right.
It's private. So we don't even tune in with ourselves.
That's right.
But you're running a script that says, I'm worthless. I'm a failure. No one can love me.
That's right.
I messed up because I did get married 1, 2, 3. When you see people get married, I saw J-Lo was engaged
to A-Rod again. Yep.
Let me clap for her, because I saw people saying negative things, right?
Sure.
Like, oh my God, how many times But I was like, how many people don't get married once?
That's
and they
right.
want to?
That's right.
This person was able to manifest multiple proposals.
That's right.
Of men that she said was high quality men that are the best of the best of what they're. So what does that say about her?
That's right.
For whatever you want to say, you need to be like, how can she do that 4 times? And I couldn't do it 1 time.
That's right.
So like, I think she's got to be thinking something about herself, even to start and stop a relationship. But people who get married, they are, I think you're saying, this is just what I believe in. Yeah. So even if it didn't work 1 time, just like with a business, just like with other things, I'm not going to put myself out of the game because 1 or 2 or 3
or 5
didn't work out.
Who's that? Elizabeth Taylor got married 8 times and twice to the same man.
That's right.
Honey.
She said, "Look, both of us didn't do it right the first time."
Let me see how this thing works one more time. So, listen to our listening and viewing audience. In the show notes, right? We're going to give 5 fill in the blanks for people to do their inner work, right? Because it's really about the inner work. It's about you healing and balancing your own mind, body, energy out, and working from a place of manifesting from a place of strength, and not that negative, self-defeating script that's on automatic within all of us, And so we'll give you like 5 fill in the blanks, and then you can look and see, it'll give you a picture of what you, and now listen now, these fill in the blanks is right off the top of your head. Don't be sitting there thinking, I think that, but I'm going to put down this. And the other thing is, this is between you and you and the grand creator and you, the 3 of y'all. It's not between Mama Yoga, Samut, and Nwasha Edu, Now, of course, y'all can call the Edus for some counseling if you like. Yes. We'll leave all that information in the show notes as well. All right, so let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about is a person like we talked about, somebody having 4, 5, 6, whatever, serial monogamous is what we used to call them in certain spiritual realms, spiritual culture realms, serial monogamous. Right. Heartbreak. Shout out to Tanya D. Ray, baby gray hair. She wrote a beautiful poem on the book talking about heartbreak. And it's not relevant whether it's specific to her, she or not. That's not relevant. The point is that she talked about heartbreak and being diagnosed with, in the poem, it talked about the person being diagnosed with a medical condition after a breakup or a traumatic situation known as cardiomyopathy, I think is what called it. A physical heartbreak.
Right.
The heart was broken.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. And some of those symptoms could be that you just park. You have all of this ambition and things you want to do, but you just can't bring yourself to move. So people say to you, 10 years ago, you were like this and you had all this vibrancy, but you are suffering from a broken heart, right?
It's so true.
You're suffering from a broken heart. You keep trying, you keep wanting to go, you keep wanting to move, but you just can't move. Your mind, body, energy space is parked. Some ideas around balancing that or healing that.
You know, I think it's an interesting science because a lot of times we're learning things from the outside in instead of the inside out. So we learn after the diagnosis, you know, that there could be an issue with your heart and it has a name and a label, but some of it is really stress-induced, right? So now that's the stress of a relationship or the stress of life. But a lot of times we are moving too fast, like we said before. You're just like, go, 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 go. That person with a lot of energy and a lot of vitality and a lot of creativity and ambition needs to be fed as well.
Yes.
So some of those people are the ones expending energy all the time. And you're saying, this is what I can do and this is what I'm going to try and this is where I'm putting my energy to work, whether it's inside of a relationship or in life. You feel like your heart is broken. But the idea is you're not really tuned into the fact that everything is kind of like a nutrition for you. So you have a spiritual nutrition, an emotional nutrition, a physical nutrition. Those things come together. So sometimes when you are stressed, your diet changes. What you're looking for mentally, you're like, you know what? I'm fine with the ratchet TV. I'm fine with the ratchet music, and everything has its place. But when you're like, okay, now it's over and over and over and over, that's enough to give you stress. But the trauma of breaking up, everybody has plans when they have a relationship.
Absolutely.
So when you're like, look, I'm in the present, I'm trying to live in the present, but I also got plans. Now when this is over, my future self that I've already visualized thousands of times doesn't exist.
That's right.
So I'm in limbo. I am on pause, battling how do I create another future self when I had this plan that I was moving towards.
That's right.
And there's a sense of like grief or mourning about a relationship ending.
Right.
And I think that the way to heal it is to find purpose again. So to really say, if I believe every relationship is trying to work to perfect my character, so you have to believe that first, then I'm saying, how did I grow? So even in the worst of the worst situations. So like I love the soulmates. I love Sombofu used to say all the time, you could be hurt, assaulted, beat up. Now you have a sharper intuition about this style of person. This is not a person that I can trust with women. This is not a person I can trust with money. This is not a person I can trust with children because my spiritual antenna now is better. The reach of it is farther.
Right.
And I wouldn't have had that if I didn't have this experience. So sometimes we can say, I don't have to repeat this lesson. So thank you. I have arrived here at Earth School.
That's right.
To get this course.
That's
and now
right.
I got an A.
That's right.
So although it seems like a failure on one hand, I got the lesson.
No,
I don't have to repeat. Right. So you got to say,
right.
This is me really just on my journey, refining and, working on myself and saying, you know what, this didn't work for a good reason. And there must be something better for me because I'm still here.
That's right.
So this is a time for me to fine tune.
That's right.
What am I still passionate about? Because sometimes we hang on to an old script for ourselves and we're like, oh, this is who I was. This is who I was 10 years ago. But maybe I'm not that person anymore myself. So other people are looking like, oh, 10 years ago, you were this, you were that. And you're like, maybe I want to be someone new now.
Yeah.
So am I still holding on to that script from 10 years ago? That is a reason why I'm not magnetizing what's really going to help me in my heart. because I'm magnetizing like what would have helped me 10 years ago.
Right. Absolutely.
So now I need to say, what am I interested in right now? And really, you know, one of my favorite words is just authenticity.
Oh, yes.
You know, like people are afraid to be themselves. But again, the purpose of community is for you to be like, this is, we're welcoming the unique examples of soul. So if we all feel like we are connected and we are one, with that, of course, is your perfect complement as a soulmate. But then there is just the community and the celebration of this new oneness. So if we're like, hey, you know, this person is amazing and unique, we love that in other people.
Yeah.
We love it all day. Like, if you think of the most popular people, even on social media and in the world, you're like, wow, there is nobody like another fill in the blank.
They're owning who they are.
But we don't love it when it's ourself, though.
Yeah, but
when
don't
it's
bring
ourself,
that over
we're
here.
like, how can I be more like other people? But when we look at, I'm sure whoever you think is the most successful person, an artist, a poet, a person in your community, you're like, there is no one else like them. And that's something that we have to embrace with ourselves. So if you're really suffering from heartbreak, it's a real thing. Because again, we're sometimes noticing the physical manifestation because it's in our face. But there was a thought energy, right? An emotional energy before the physical manifestation. So whatever we say, the flu, a headache, you know, constipation, dryness.
Oh Lord.
Dryness is a theme of this podcast.
No, it is not.
Anti-dry, moistness. I don't know. Whatever it is.
Dryness.
It's coming from someplace before it manifests physically. Just like in the world, we're like, okay, this microphone was someone's idea, right? These headphones was an idea before it became a physical thing.
Reality. That's
all of the heartbreak.
Yeah.
When you go to the doctor, you're like, I really feel something here. And then they're like, well, the blood flow is not going how it should go. That's real now. That just goes to show you what you can manifest.
That's right. That's right.
So then you have to say, okay, this is a real thing, but let me do the things that make me feel alive and joyful and vibrant again.
That's right.
And sometimes I've asked people that question, like, well, what do you love? And people say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have, especially women. Sometimes men, they know, even if they said, I've sacrificed myself and I'm angry and I haven't done what I wanted to do because of this relationship, a child, a wife, or whatever it is. Sometimes women, I'm like, okay, well, let's do some of the things that bring you joy. Yeah. What are 5 things that bring you joy? Yeah. And people are like, they either they know and they don't want to answer. So I'm a firm believer that you do know. Even if you have to speak to another version of yourself, you know, like subconscious. A lot of times I tell people, well, if you did know, what would you say? So if their first answer is, I don't know, I say, well, if you did know, then what would you say? And I say, well, I really don't know. And I say, well, if you were like 7, what would you have said? Because sometimes people give themselves permission as the child version of themselves to say, I just wanted to draw. I just wanted to sit in the park. And then I say, start there.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the inner work, because everything you just shared, Nwasha, really stems from a person's own inner work. Right. Even, you know, experiencing the heartbreak, right? As we said at the top of this discussion, the premise is that you understand that the mate that comes to your life is a mirror to where you are right then and there. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad, but it's a mirror, because law of attraction is at work. You magnetize to you exactly what you need for your next level of growth and healing, honestly. Right. And even if it looks and it's a challenging dynamic, universe is beneficent. It's about your healing. So the whole process is about inner work. You know, it's the inner work. I love what you said about the 5 things that give you joy. We're going to use that, put that in the show notes as well. Don't skip over the 5, you know, lines of blank, fill in the blanks, but the 5 things in your life or experiences that give you joy, because how you feel is an indication to whether you are vibrating at a high and loving and healing resonance, or a sad, depressed, and demoting resonance. So we want to increase the joy. I love that. So that'll be in the show notes.
And we know that, right? When we see someone, I think, you know, like you feel a vibe.
Yeah,
When you're maybe like in a public
like
place,
happier,
this person is approachable
sure,
and friendly
with
and
themselves.
magnetic.
Sure.
And this person I'm not going to talk to.
It's like Pigpen, or was that Pigpen and Charlie Brown walking around with the dirt behind them and the clouds of shit kicking up. We're not interested in that, baby. Let's take the salve. Let's put some sage around you. You'll be all right, you know. But it's all inner work.
Yeah.
And so the art and science of soulmating first starts with your own inner work and correcting those demoting scripts from your childhood, from what you may have witnessed, from the relationships, the baggage that you have, and the perspectives that you've accumulated from that automatic script over time. Does that make sense?
Those things will let you know. Because sometimes people think that's what is the cognitive dissonance, right? You think you're on the path towards your mate because you're not aware of any type of limiting belief. It's when you, on instinct, fill in those blanks that you're like, oh, that's going to be some awareness. If this is what I'm really thinking, if I'm out here thinking I'm too old or I'm too young or my ship has sailed.
Right.
Even when I sign up, I can sign up for 10 dating sites.
Right.
I can pay the $750.
Right.
I will go there and be like, see, nobody's here because
or it's Charlie with a different name. Here he come again.
And that's, that's part of the science is awareness. But then the 5 things that bring you joy is the art.
Yeah.
That's I have to listen to my heart. And I think a lot of times, again, unfortunately, women are told not to listen to, we're told not to be too emotional, not to listen to our heart, not to tune in. So we're living somebody else's life. You're living your parents' life. You're living society's life. You're living your first love's life. And now you're with your 5th love.
That's right.
Still trying to work some stuff out that would have worked with the first one, maybe, but you don't even really know.
Right.
So I think it's like there's a balance. I believe in like a heart-centered living because I think that the time that we're in is too logical. If there's such a thing, it's not balanced. It's not balanced. So all the time when you're saying, okay, that's that. We look good on paper. I have these 10 things that are so important that this man must have, but none of it is about character. None of it is about, your heart space and being able to create. So somebody can have all 10 things and then your mansion burns down.
Yeah.
Or he finds another younger woman, right? So he's still got all 10 things, but he's going to share them with somebody else.
He's going to share them
so
with
you have to be like, okay, I want this, but then I also want this. That's balanced so that I can really be happy. Because sometimes people get what they want. And they're still not happy. Like you get the thing that you've been praying for, and then you either don't appreciate it and enjoy it, or you didn't even really want it in the first place.
Well, that brings me to the discussion and a perfect segue into the science and understanding what happiness is, right? From a spiritual perspective and even from a mundane perspective, it plays out. Everybody is truly responsible for their own level of happiness. Like you cannot expect. It's unfair and it's too much work and it's unrealistic to expect another person to be responsible for your happiness. The great spiritualist and really pervasive author of The Law of Attraction, Esther Hicks, the teachings of Abraham, say that if somebody says to you, I need you to make me happy, you should go the other way because it's just not, that's a bill of goods that we've been sold. Like somebody saying, I'm going to sell you rights to the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a cultural and a societal norm that has not served anybody. That is kind of like, what they call that they used to call it clickbait, but now it's called, bait and switch. But I'm going to take this time right here. Y'all might hear some bass, right? Because downstairs here at our lovely space, there is a recording studio. So somebody's down there trying to play the bass, but they ain't really playing the bass.
They're warming up.
They're warming up. Nwasha's so kind and lovely. She's just so kind. I'm about to talk all kind of junk about them. Anyway, so happiness, right? And your happiness is your responsibility. And once you find, like you say, the 5 things that bring you joy, or that increase your joy, once you find, reworking the script that is not serving you, once you find a way in which to just live and enjoy your life and increase your vibration that way and be happy with yourself, then the equivalent will magnetize to you. Someone who's interested, I like to say for myself, I'm interested in having a mate who is at least conscious and diligent about his own self-mastery. Because without that, we just two flawed folks trying to fit into, a
important.
space. And that's problematic. So happiness is a person's own responsibility, which goes a long way in helping a person attract and magnetize them to them someone who has a similar interest.
Right. I mean, I think there's been different times in my life when when I had to ask myself, what is my day like? If I had to say how many hours did I spend doing something that I was happy, then how many hours did I spend unhappy? What was I actually doing? I think that it's like a way to take inventory with your own self, because a lot of times we have things that we feel like we have to do, and you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Turns out you don't have to do anything.
That's right.
So when you're telling yourself, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, but it's not making you happy,
right,
you have to find ways to either change how you're looking at that task or delegate it to somebody else. So if you can get some laundry service,
yes,
you can get an accountant, you can get all the things that you're like, this is just not my thing, and I'm wasting my time doing it, because the more that you do that, you're unhappy. So sometimes the reason why people don't know how to answer that question is because they spend 24 hours a day doing things that are not serving them. That's or that they don't recognize as serving them. Right. Even if you're working and you don't like your job, you need to be like, I probably at some point wanted this job, right? When I went on the interview, when I applied.
Sure. When I got accepted and hired,
self, right? And say, you know what? There was a time that I wanted this. So let me at least be grateful that I can even pay the bare minimum of my bills or whatever it is. Because when you spend your time, again, everybody knows this. We used to act this out. Another thing I used to do in my classes, and I do this with my clients and with my children, is say, act like you're happy. And people sit up and open their eyes and have a certain expression. If I say, act like you're sad, act like you're depressed, you instantly know what to do with your body. But again, that's last. First, it's you're hearing me and you have the thought, and then you take it in and you take it on. So if you're spending your whole day and you're saying, I'm so unhappy, you have to analyze, again, what's your mental nutrition, your physical nutrition, your spiritual nutrition, your emotional, how are you feeding yourself?
That's right.
And then you have to say, I need to do more that is the higher vibration and less that is making me unhappy in the lower vibration.
That's right.
Eventually, you're going to balance out.
That's right.
If you're like, okay, I snooze. But then I followed someone who's positive.
Right. That's right.
By the time I say, okay, this is now, my life is looking different because I drank some extra water, had a shot of chlorophyll.
Got out and inhaled some fresh air. Got into the sunlight and not fluorescent lights.
What do you like to do? And if you don't know what you like to do, you should just try some stuff.
That's right.
Dust your hula hoop off. Play some music. Go to the park. Read. Think of what the old you used to like to do and pick up from there. It might not even be relevant, but you can work your way through the list.
You can talk to your inner child. Let he or she come out a little bit and have some fun, and don't be scared. That's the one thing about adulting is that, many times adulting people perceive that they have to be so rigid and so focused and so,
nobody
purposeful.
Wants to be a beginner as adults.
I mean, just go and do something. And now you touched on something again, as usual, which is why I love talking to you. Working somewhere that is not that doesn't give you joy or doesn't give you a sense of purpose, and what you're doing is a meaningful work for your time, energy, effort, but you receive money for it, and maybe probably not even enough that you got to go work somewhere else. That is one of the most soul-sucking practices that we can get into, but oftentimes people meet people at work because the American society, that's where you're at. So, especially if it's not the same old, Grundies, they hire a new guy, he don't quite know what's going on yet, and you kind of like, you tune in. Not that I have ever done this. But But people meet people at work, and that is kind of it could be kind of a touchy area, because there's an old saying, I don't poop where I eat.
Right.
That people don't want to have any conflict in the place where they are earning their, their living. So, but many people do meet people at work and work together fine, and go on to have successful connections and relationships. But when that thing goes sour, Lord have
somebody
mercy.
Gotta quit.
Somebody got to get quit or get met in the parking lot, honey.
You gotta have some. I think you gotta know how to start a relationship.
Yeah.
But the flip side is, can you learn how to end a relationship gracefully?
Gracefully,
so that when you see each other in the streets, or if you are still working together, or even if it's the same building or the same industry, because a lot of times, even if it's not the exact same employer, if you're moving in purpose, chances are the other person was too. How can you be when you ever just are surprised to see them again? Right? But I think
annoyed to see them.
Or annoyed.
But honestly, Nwasha, that takes two, really. Because you can be as graceful and as gracious as you can muster the strength and the capacity to be. But if the other person is intent on dragging you and, not wanting to let go and being mischievous in the split, then you got some real problems.
No, that's true. And all you can do
is like your evil companion.
Maintain the highest vibration that you, because I think you can't, especially if someone is really dragging you again. Yeah. If it's on social media and stuff like that, you can't control that person, and you can't control the people who believe that person.
That's right.
But it's just like the clean glass, dirty glass. If you are maintaining the highest level of vibration and the most grace, some stuff you don't even have to comment on, but somebody else can see through. Okay, this person over here is just sensitive. This person over here didn't appreciate the breakup or whatever it is.
That's right.
They feel jaded in some way, but it's hard to do because you want to get sucked into their tornado. Yeah. But you have to have, this is where all the other ways that you are building yourself up gives you some muscle.
That's right.
Some spiritual muscle.
That's right. Some fortitude.
Queen of Fu used to call it spiritual kung fu.
Yeah, shout out to Queen of Fu.
I got this arm up. Let me block. Let me it's coming this way, and I'm working with the energy. Yeah, and I can just
ebb and flowing with the energy.
Just push it. Because it's when somebody's storming. Yeah. It's easy to get sucked in and defend yourself. But then you have to say, that goes back to your beliefs. If you don't accept what they're saying, you don't register with it, then, they might as well be speaking another language, or they might as well be talking about somebody else. That's right. Your need to defend yourself is a little bit of it is resonating with you. So that's the part, like you said, the inner work is, why does this resonate with me? Right. Why do I feel the need to chime in? Yeah. And then answer that question, because who are you defending yourself for? And, everyone can tell who the troublemaker is.
That's right. That's right. There's an old saying that you should never argue with a fool, because then people walking by can't tell who's who. On that note, for sure. So we want to just really encourage you all to do the best you can in terms of your own inner work, and the vibration of love and prosperity, wealth and abundance will find its way to you, and rewrite your script. If you are constantly catch yourself, listen to yourself and see if their self-talk includes what you are not, and, negativity, and you're not good at this, or you're not pretty enough, or whatever it is. You want to rewrite that script. You want to fill in the blank. I think men are XYZ, and a whole list of other questions that are fill in the blank will give you a picture of what your spirit, what you have sown in your mind, body, energy, in terms of relationships. And then what do you enjoy? Because not only do we all need to correct those negative scripts, but we need to vibrate and have emotions that are joyful and passionate in our own being first, so that we can attract that.
Because you're going to be magnetic. And this is not saying that the guy is going to be pulling out his hula hoop to match you. Right. But when you have been filling yourself up, now when you go out, the same person that you could have just gone
cross
past
paths.
is now just doesn't even know why they have to come and introduce themselves, or they have to find out more about you because your head is upright, you're smiling, your eyes are bright because you feel fulfilled. I also, one of my other beautiful sisters that I love to be with is Shola Arewa. She always said, you have to be filling up your own cup.
That's right.
Love from the overflow.
That's
whether
right.
you're a mother, whether you're at work. What
That's
can
right.
you, if you hate your job, what can you bring?
That's right.
What can you contribute? What can you do to lift the energy? Listen to something in the background, bring in something to raise the energy with other people, because that's where you have to live from. Otherwise, you're just going to be depleted.
You got to live from the overflow. Love
heartbreak
that.
happens. You're just, it's stagnant, or it's like you said, it's on pause, and then you have this physical reaction to it. So.
Yeah, that's great. Great stuff. That's great stuff. Nwasha, tell people where they can find you, dear.
You can find me on social media.
Spell your name for folk on social media.
Nwasha. It's Nwasha, and it is Akoma House Initiative. So Akoma is Akoma. You can also sign up to learn all the things that you didn't learn that you should have learned before you were dating at a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly, bit.ly/Black Love School, capital B, capital L, capital S. And that will help you on your journey to perfecting yourself and magnetizing the most important relationship and living without regret.
I love that. Living without regret, and the self-love school. Self-love or Black Love?
Black Love School.
Black Love School. Anyway, all of Nwasha and Montsho's info will be in the show notes.
Yes.
We'll put that up for you as well, so that you can just link, and all of the other show note information we said that we would put there. So we want to thank you so much for coming on, representing the Akoma House Initiative and your fabulousness. And we hope to we'll invite you back real soon. Come back anytime when your next book, maybe when you come back next time, we'll have to have a read from your book and all of that.
Yes.
Why don't you tell everyone your books as well?
The first book is Akoma Day, Guidebook into the Sacred Science of Soul Mating and Cultural Alternative to Valentine's Day. And the second book that I wrote with my husband, actually both the first and second book is with Montsho, is You Are What You Cheat, Guidebook into Understanding and Overcoming Infidelity.
Oh, yes. That was on Oprah, right?
Yes. That was the one on Oprah. And then the third book is 20 Beautiful Women. And actually, we do have a fourth book coming out with Queen Afua.
Oh, wonderful.
Any minute now. I think maybe this summer.
Wonderful. So we want to say thank you, my dear, and envisioning nothing but prosperity, wealth, success, and abundance for you and your family. Thank you for coming.
To you.
All right. To our listeners, viewers, thank you so much for tuning into the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance Show. I am Samut, Mama Yoga, your host, and I will be teaching Kundalini Yoga at the Amaldi Wellness Center in Philadelphia. That info will be on our sites and in our show notes as well. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes and Apple Music. Is that it, Flaw? Apple Music? Or Apple what?
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts. Tell everybody where to get us, honey. I don't never know.
Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Google Play. We're working on Spotify.
Yay.
But yep, right there.
All right.
Spreaker.
All right. We doing things. You got to have a beautiful team around you. And as always, I wish you nothing but peace, love, prosperity, and joy. Peace and love. Peace and love, Samut with the Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance Show here. And just a quick reminder, any of the information and views shared by the guests on Mind, Body, Energy, and Balance are for information purposes only. Do your own research, people, and check with your healthcare provider if you find something we've shared interesting and you want to look into it. Thanks for listening, and peace and love.